1942, the high watermark of the German occupation of Western Europe. Some of the continent's biggest capital cities have fallen under the heel of the Nazi jackboot. Paris, Amsterdam, Warsaw, Winnipeg? It's the eternal what if. What would have happened if Hitler's Germany had successfully invaded Great Britain and her empire? That question was put to the test in Manitoba, Winnipeg, on the 19th of February, 1942. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And a big hello to all of my new subscribers. I'm absolutely thrilled that you've taken the time to watch some videos on the channel. It means a lot. Thank you.
Winnipeg, the capital, home of the provincial government, and supporting a population of some 350,000. Today, Winnipeg is the fourth city in Canada, and one of the most cosmopolitan in North America. Here, history and modern progress march hand in hand.
The Canadians were about to feel what the people of occupied Europe went through on a day-to-day basis, all in the name of war bonds. Canadian entrepreneur John Draper Perrin, who at the time was chairman of the Greater Winnipeg Victory Loan Organisation, set up the mock invasion in a bid to drive up the sales of war bonds. This fake occupation was to be as realistic as possible, with Wehrmacht uniforms rented from Hollywood to add that extra layer of authenticity for the event. Members of the Young Men's section of the Board of Trade were chosen to fill the ranks of the mock Wehrmacht. No authentic greatcoats were issued, however, to the fake Wehrmacht troops. The Winnipeg Tribune said this of the fake invasion force: "It was an exceedingly chilly army that occupied Winnipeg." The invaders were even equipped with Canadian universal carriers, not quite as imposing as Panzer IVs, but an armoured presence nevertheless for this bogus blitzkrieg. On the morning of the 19th, a firefight broke out on the outskirts of the city. The mock German invasion force started their assault, aided by the Royal Canadian Air Force in guise as the Luftwaffe. The defenders of Winnipeg fought on bravely, but could not hold on and were soon beaten back to their secondary defensive ring around the city. 19-year-old George Hoffman, a private in the 1st Cavalry Division Service Corps, said this about his experiences: "One of the things we were not to do is to get physical with these guys, because it was all a big act, and we didn't want anybody getting hurt." Fortunately, there were only 2 injuries sustained during the event. A soldier sprained his ankle, and one Miss Gorin, a housewife who cut her thumb during the blackout. By 9:30 a.m, the Canadian defenders under the command of Colonel D.S. Mackay had been routed and surrendered. The German troops entered Winnipeg. With the city now defenceless, the Nazi invaders set about instilling their own command structure over the city. Erich von Nuremberg was declared Gaultier of Winnipeg, and immediately issued the arrest of the previous regime's government officials. Then Mayor of Winnipeg John Queen, along with Premier Bracken, were detained in Fort Garry, which had been turned into a fake Nazi internment camp for the day of the invasion. Union Jacks were replaced by flags bearing the swastika, and members of the clergy were also arrested, which mimicked scenes of what had been happening to the people of mainland Europe for many years. Property was seized by Winnipeg's new conquerors. There was even a book burning outside the main library of Winnipeg, adding to the already stark authenticity that if they had been set up to recreate. Reichsmarks were given for change in Winnipeg shops, which were printed for publicity for the loan drive, with information about victory war bonds printed on the reverse. Even a new set of rules for the people of Winnipeg and Manitoba to follow were plastered up on telephone poles for people to read. Some of the rules were: 1. The territory is now part of the Greater Reich and under the jurisdiction of Colonel Erich von Nuremberg, Gaultier of the Führer. 2. No civilians will be permitted on the streets between 9:30 and daybreak. 3. All public places are out of bounds to civilians, and not more than 8 persons can gather at one time in any place. These rules showed the bleak realities of life under Nazi occupation, and the city of Winnipeg was even renamed Himmlerstadt for the duration of the day. The Winnipeg Tribune was reprinted as Das Winnipeger Lügenblatt, and it was a special 4-page edition that was filled with fake articles that tried to reflect what the paper would turn into in the event of a real invasion of Canada. Fake adverts like this one forbade religious gatherings, along with a not-so-subtle drive for war bonds. The day's invasion concluded with a parade by the victorious Wehrmacht forces down Portage, the main street of Winnipeg. After the days of the invasion, a large poster was put up outside the Bank of Montreal for people to make their dollars fight for Manitoba in a bid to raise the victory war bond drive. The loan drive was more than successful, and a total of $47 million were raised, which comes to around $658 million in today's money. Despite the occupation of Manitoba only lasting for one day, if they served a valuable purpose. It reminded the people of the free world the reasons behind the fighting, ensuring no one else would have to endure the hardship faced by those already under Nazi control. Over the course of the war, the Canadian people helped raise a staggering $8.8 billion in war bonds, as well as their contributions in men and war material to the Allied forces, with over 1 million Canadians taking part in the fighting during the Second World War. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you again.